Get the bad stuff over first. I want to take a moment here to acknowledge the death of Lance Corporal Jack Fitzgibbon. He's the only son of former Defence Minister Joel Fitzgibbon. Now, Lance Corporal Fitzgibbon was a member of our Special Forces, died in a training accident at RAAF Base Richmond when his parachute didn't open properly. Joel Fitzgibbon had his statement on his son's death read out today by the ADF's Acting Special Operations Commander.
We are devastated and heartbroken by the loss of our wonderful Jack. Serving in the Special Forces was Jack's dream job, and we take some comfort from the fact that he died serving his nation in the uniform of the Australian Defence Force. Jack was a dedicated, highly skilled and courageous soldier. He was an experienced parachutist. Our lives will never be the same without Jack, but we will always remain proud of him and his many achievements.
That statement was actually written by Joel Fitzgibbon about his son. Just how this accident happened is, of course, being investigated. My heart goes out to Joel. I was by chance on a holiday with him last year. He's a lovely man. And, well, I don't know what to say. Joining me is our Thursday regular guest, Barnaby Joyce, the Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs and former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby, Jack Fitzgibbon volunteered to serve his country, has lost his life. What a terrible loss for his family and a loss for us all, really.
Yeah, well, for him and Diane, for Joel and Diane, this is terrible. I mean, for every father, for every mother, the loss of their child is an unsurmountable grief. What we can say is Fitzgibbon family have done so much for our nation, the defence of our nation, service of our nation, and Jack was a splendid example of that. And for his service, he has paid the ultimate sacrifice. And obviously, I know Joel, and so do all of you. Joel's a good bloke. He's a good mate of mine, and I think we all are there. It's in our thoughts and our prayers for the family of this tragic time.
Well said. Awkward segue, but Barnaby, let us go to the politics of the day. We seem to be here determined to get a little poorer every day, to be honest. Santos now, the gas giant, it's tried for 10 years to get up its $3.5 billion Narrabri gas project, New South Wales. You wonder why gas companies bother still investing here. But now 2 out of 3 federal court judges have upheld an appeal against this project lodged by some traditional owners, an objection, who say the project must be checked for what it does through global warming. And what makes this all so stupid, Barnaby, is that Australia is too small to make any measurable difference to global warming. And even the Albanese government itself has said so, with lawyers for the Commonwealth telling the federal court in another case, because Australia contributes a very small proportion of global greenhouse gas emissions, it lacks the necessary control to prevent or materially mitigate climate change or its impacts. Yet here we go again. This is killing us, Barnaby.
And we're going possibly to another surplus on the back of gas exports and coal exports and iron ore exports. And if we didn't have, beef and all these terrible carbon and methane emitting products, that if we didn't have them, we wouldn't have a surplus. We wouldn't have the money for your superannuation, your paid parental leave, and you wouldn't have the money for the NDIS, and you wouldn't have the money for so many aspects, which gives you the standard of living which we all enjoy. Now, I just don't know where this nation is going when it does things like this. We have to become as strong as possible, as quickly as possible. We have China breathing down our neck. The world is changing. You were talking about the Ukraine earlier on. Yet we seem to create these obstacles to make us poorer, to make us weaker. We're losing our capacity to refine fuel. We're losing our capacity to manufacture steel. We're losing our capacity to produce plastics. We're shutting down our aluminium refineries. And it's all based around this thing called energy. If you lock down our capacity to get affordable energy, you shut down Australia and make us vulnerable. So I hope they considered that at the court. I hope they consider that, because it all comes to naught if at the end we get a foot on our throat. Then you won't be worried about climate change. You'll be worried about the servitude of your children.
Look, anyone, you mentioned something there. I refer to people to Terry McCrann's column in the News Corp papers today, Herald Sun, for instance. It makes it clear, without, as you say, without these minerals and China buying them, we would be in so much economic strife, you wouldn't believe it. It's frightening how fragile this economy is. Barnaby, the Queensland RSL has written a new acknowledgement of country to be read out at Anzac Day ceremonies. And it goes like this. Today's warriors acknowledge the very first warriors who stood as the guardians of this ancient country in which we meet today. We salute their commitment to an unbroken line of duty that began tens of thousands of years ago and continues to this very day. And I wonder if that's really appropriate for Anzac Day when their warriors of the past, these Aboriginal warriors of the past, were actually fighting each other.
Well, I just don't like the idea of politicising Anzac Day, of saying, oh, we've got to have these ameliorating issues, we've got to make addendums to what it is. What it is quite clear. It is people in Australian uniforms who went overseas, who domestically supported the defence of our nation, who's paid the supreme sacrifice, who were injured, who were maimed, whose families fell apart, whose wives left and partners left, all this pain that goes around the necessary defence of our nation. But it's a defence of Australia. It's those who've worn the Australian uniform. And to start always bringing in other items, like where do these things stop? And you can find a virtuous reason to bring it in, but then of course it just leads to the next virtuous reason, and the next, and the next, and the next. And we do something that nobody wants. We politicise Anzac Day.